Good morning, everybody. I'm Paula Liang, Chair of Philanos. We are so happy to have so many people registered for this program. I just I have a couple of things to report, all of it good. We have 4 new affiliates this month. I highlighted several of them in my letter in the e-news, but we have a brand new one as of this week. And they're on the call. Impact 100 New York City, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And thanks to Sandy and her team at Affiliate Engagement and Enhancement for all the hard work you do. If you haven't taken a look at our website in the last couple of weeks, I encourage you to do that. Virginia Mills and Maggie Glasgow and our admin, Nancy Clark, have been working so hard to add richness to it. And I think that's why so many interesting things are happening, including attracting new affiliates. And I've had a couple of interesting phone calls as a result of that. One was a call that I participated in with some women in Vermont who are standing up giving circles, and I joined one. It's called Mission Murals. It's a woman who's decided to support public art and public health by commissioning artists to create murals on the sides of food banks, which are not generally lovely public buildings, and also to stock the food banks. And she's up on Grapevine, which is one of our sponsors. So there's a lot of cool symmetry there, synchronicity there. And I also am going to be on a call this evening with some folks in Portland, Maine, who want to start an anti-racist giving circle. And all of these folks heard about us because they were attracted to the resources that we put on our website. So just a lot of things happening out there in spite of the fact that we're all kind of confined to our homes. Welcome. We hope this session is helpful to you, and that everything else we're putting out there is helpful, and that all of you and yours are safe and well. Sue Priester is going to take it away and introduce our panelists. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be with you. We have all changed our definition of with, I guess. So much has changed in all of our lives in the last 6 months. The Philanos Zoom webinars, however, is a constant. Those of us who have been doing these Zoom meetings for a while, didn't we feel on top of the game when the entire world started Zooming? So that's yet another benefit of membership, I guess. We have a really interesting and timely presentation from our 2 presenters today. We are bi-coastal today. We'll be hearing first from Martha Cukor at the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle, and then Deborah Edward, 99 Girlfriends in Portland, Oregon. Now, I want to tell you a couple of things before I introduce them. One is, please, when you have questions, and I hope you will have lots of questions, put them into the Q&A, not the chat, the Q&A. I'll be monitoring that. You can ask questions at any time during either presentation. We will not do Q&A until after both ladies have presented, however. But put your questions in any time, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. For questions that don't get answered, you will have both Martha's and Deborah's email addresses, and they have both said they would be happy to hear from any of you following our webinar. So let me first introduce Martha. She is a member of the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle since 2010. I guess that's 10 years. She is currently the steering subcommittee co-chair. Martha has lived most of her life in Baltimore. She has degrees, though, from UNC, that's University of North Carolina, Columbia University Teachers College, New York, and the University of Maryland School of Law. She taught for 10 years in Brooklyn Heights and then practiced law for 20 years back in Baltimore. She has been a volunteer for numerous organizations, both in tutoring, jobs programs, and is a trustee of the Bryn Mawr School. Deborah Edward in Portland is a co-founder of one of our newer groups. The 99 Girlfriends was founded in 2016. She spent most of her professional career with nonprofit organizations. She is also highly educated, having degrees from Antioch College, University of Texas at Austin, and is a Fulbright scholar. Her nonprofit experience consists of founding the Austin, Texas Children's Museum. She has taught nonprofit management at the University of Texas and the University of Portland, and has done consulting work for diverse groups such as the Mid-America Arts Alliance, United Way, California Museum of Women, etc. So we are delighted to have both of you. Deborah is currently co-chair of her group's coordinating council and chair of the member education committee. So right now, we'll get started with Martha. I'll turn it over to you to tell us about how your group is staying together while we are apart.
Thank you so much, Sue. I'm delighted to be here today. My name's Martha Cukor, and I'm co-chair of the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle. I'm co-chair along with Susan Pearl. That's Susan with the dark hair. When Susan and I started our term as co-chairs in May, our two top concerns were how our grantees could possibly adapt to the constraints of COVID, and also how we could keep a sense of community among the circle members. All of this when she and I couldn't even have a cup of coffee together. Today, I'm going to focus on keeping community within the circle. But before I talk about what the circle has done to keep us together while apart, I want to give you some facts about the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle. Our mission is to help women and their children in the Baltimore area achieve self-sufficiency. Right now, we're starting our 20th year of grant making. Last year, we had approximately 450 members, and in June, we dispersed close to $530,000 to over 23 grantees. But you should know the largest amount that we grant is $25,000. When we're thinking of the sense of community, we have to think how important it is to our membership. Our membership consistently reports 3 reasons for joining the circle. First of all, bundling their charitable giving. Secondly, learning more about the need in Baltimore. And thirdly, meeting, working, and socializing with like-minded women. We have 7 committees on which about 60% of our members serve, many of them on more than one committee. We have 4 full circle meetings a year. You see a slide here, a picture here of us, a full circle meeting. And at those meetings, we have speakers or panels talking about featured topics and, of course, time for socializing. And in addition, we have what many of you have, many meetings open to all for educational purposes. We have service projects and all kinds of communications, hard copy, online, Facebook, and now, of course, we're all Zooming. Before I talk about community in the time of COVID, I'd like to say that the ideas for the new ways of keeping us together came from the committees, and Susan and I are so grateful for their creativity and dedication. I know there are many, many ways giving circles and grantees have coped with the restrictions of the pandemic, and I list just a few ways on this slide. And the one I want to talk about is our necessities drive. We have one committee that usually sponsors 2 service days during the year. This summer, that committee sponsored a drive to collect necessities for 4 grantees which serve the homeless and food insecure. This, of course, was off of their usual schedule. They called the grantees, asked what they wanted, posted a wish list, and within days received 3 times what they had asked for donations. It was an amazing outpouring of support from the membership. Here you see a picture of the van for healthcare for the homeless, one of our grantees, which was also a beneficiary of the necessities drive. This slide shows something we did that was entirely different than anything we had ever done before. First, you need a little background. We have a document that comes out yearly called the Year in Review. It goes out in hard copy and e-form in July, and it includes a letter from the co-chairs of the year just concluded, blurbs about the grantees just funded and those of the past years, and other things such as highlighting events, thanks to special donors. We remember those who have died. And it's just really a beautiful, beautiful communication. One committee had the idea for a Zoom for the full membership after the Year in Review was sent out. So we did that. Susan and I spoke briefly, and then a committee chair introduced 4 speakers representing grantees of the past year. And one of those grantees is featured on the slide you see, St. Francis Neighborhood Center, which we funded many times. This neighborhood center was started in 1963, and it provides academic and cultural enrichment and summer camp for children in a very challenged part of Baltimore. So the grantees, the 4 speakers, each had 6 minutes to tell their stories and describe how they're adapting to the requirements of COVID. In addition, we had one person assigned to manage questions through chat and then breakout rooms. That was in the end of July. Then in the end of August, we had a year ahead Zoom meeting. 2 grantees, which had just been funded in June, were each invited to speak for 10 minutes. The slide you see is of a young woman in the program called GEM, Girls Empowerment Mission, which helps young women graduate from high school and go to college. But it also requires community service of its students. And the picture you see here is of a GEM student with healthcare workers to whom she has just delivered letters of thanks and appreciation. After the grantees spoke, the committee co-chairs each spoke about their plans for the coming year and how they're adapting to the new way of life. But I will say that the real bonus of this Year and Ahead Zoom is that Grantee Connect, which is the committee with the least understood mission, got to speak to the full membership. This mission is the least understood because Circle members are not usually invited to events in order to avoid overwhelming the grantees by number. The committee invites all past and present grantees twice a year to forums addressing topics which the grantees themselves have chosen. For example, this fall's forum will address the issue of outcomes. And for the Year Ahead Zoom, we saw a short clip of a grantee describing making a connection and planning to work together with another grantee she had met at one of the forums. Then after the committee co-chairs and grantees spoke, we had breakout rooms with an established question in case they needed a prompt for a discussion. So lessons learned. Well, the response of the Circle members to our efforts was just amazing. They were so enthusiastic about the events. We had about 130 members signed up for each Zoom, and we had a lot of requests to view the meeting later. So we're posting clips on our Facebook page, and we have plans for future website postings. Now, the next point I know is one I do not need to tell you. Limit the time to around an hour. Otherwise, you just start to lose your audience. And we found that it was absolutely necessary for us to have a Zoom consultant. There are many reasons, and I list them on this slide, but I have to say, I don't know what we would have done without that nice young man. He was just absolutely great. Before I talk about problems encountered, I just want to tell you about this slide. ORCIDS is a program, a during and after school music program that has academic mentorship attached to it. This program was started by our BSO Maestro Marin Alsop, but it now operates independently of the symphony. And I will say that in a great coincidence, today in the New York Times on page 5 is a picture of Marin Alsop with a rehearsal section of the Baltimore Symphony. Problems encountered. We had surprisingly few. We had technical glitches, which we all know happen all the time these days, and they were handled very smoothly by our Zoom consultant. And the other problem was speakers going over their allotted time, which is probably why I'm talking so quickly. We had one, in one of the Zooms, one speaker went way over her time, and we had to then cut off time from the breakout room. So in closing, summer's usually a quiet time from the point of view of the full membership. It's certainly not a quiet time from the point of view of the committee chairs who are getting ready for the grant year. And it's not a quiet time for our treasurer because we're working on the budget. But for the full membership, not so much activity. And now, of course, we have a completely new cycle of member engagement. Our committees took the initiative to keep our members engaged, and in doing so, they also engaged grantees. And we have to say that the level of commitment and interest is steady, maybe even higher than it would normally be at this time in our grant cycle. So we can think we've made progress in meeting the goal of keeping our members together while apart. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Deborah Edward.
Aha! Welcome to Portland, Oregon. It's very windy today and our protests continue, but we have a very great sense of community and we're committed to being active and present about racial equity as long as it takes. So I'm Deborah Edward. I've been part of the 99 Girlfriends since we started in 2016. And we started very much like a lot of the other groups that are in the Impact 100 model. Our approach to our work is to provide an opportunity for women in our neighborhood, our region, our 4-county region, which includes a little bit of Washington State, to get involved in local issues. And we started with 117 members. We were talking about a typical Impact 100 model, $1,100 contribution for each person. And we were independently, we were fiscally sponsored at the beginning, and now we're an independent 501c3. Our approach is $100,000 grants. At least initially, we've been talking about project grants, and our work is mostly to do grant making and education with our members. So this year in 2020, we had 505 members, 160 new members. And our cycle is normally to be doing recruitment between December and May through informal get-togethers, to do our educational programs in the spring, to do some summer social in the summer, and then get involved in grant making. And typically we've been doing grant reviews through about November, do our meet the finalist activity, vote in November, and have a big celebration in December. And this year we had to do a whole different thing, because by March 16th, when we shut down, we had 290 members, and we'd only done 2 or 3 programs. We'd done some World Cafes to get people excited, and we'd had our implicit bias program. And then we said, it's time to shut down. So we had to think about how to approach the work that we were going to do together and connect all these new members with us. So our thoughts at that time were to make sure that we had no thinking even about programs in person until our governor would say that we would be all well. We kept thinking that would happen sooner rather than later. At this point, everything that we're thinking about is going to be virtual until whenever. And to make sure that we could connect members to issues, to one another, to projects, and to other groups that were doing philanthropy and collective giving and thinking about our community. We had to increase our communications with members. We've been mostly doing every other month newsletters, but we began to do member-to-member emails more frequently, almost weekly. We had to upgrade our social media presence, so now we're on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and we're continuing to be active with pictures and stories. We asked our membership committee to split our membership group up into groups of 40, and we had these connectors who keep in touch with 40 members, 2 or 3 light touches during the year. We wanted to build on our member expertise, so our programming changed from focusing on how to help us understand about public policy, which is all over the map right now, and we're hearing about it a lot, to showcasing some of the work that our members are doing as individuals, as volunteers or as experts in their field. We wanted to provide opportunities for deep dive as well as light learning. So our member education activities changed to create some study groups as well as some 1-hour seminars. We started a blog to share stories about our members and about issues, and invited our writers, members who wanted to write, to start providing opportunities for them to learn and share. And we're now recording all our programs and posting them on our website as we can. So the challenge for all of us and all of you was to learn how to make virtual meetings come alive. We started our meeting activities on Zoom with a town hall meeting with the Women's Foundation of Oregon. They had started a rapid relief fund almost immediately in March, and we wanted to showcase the work that they were doing around our state with our members. So our first Zoom experience was with them, and they had a good Zoom expert, so we learned a lot from them. Then we organized our Spotlight study teams. This year we're thinking about diving into one priority topic for our grant making in the future, a lot like what Jacksonville had been doing. And we had picked 4 topics that our members wanted to hear more about. Their mental health, homelessness, our natural world, and reducing racial disparities. So we organized 28 women to be part of teams to study those issues and come up with reports that we'll hear about in October. We had our first virtual new member orientation, which taught us a lot, and our first discovery forum, one of our 4 major group activities that we do every year, but this one was on Zoom, and we were using our learning question. Every year we have a learning question like, what is social change, and how does philanthropy influence policy, which is this year's topic. And we did that on Zoom with some great speakers. And then we began our Let's Talk About series, which has been delightful. We've had members sharing their expertise and their stories about gun activism, working with schools during COVID, life in prisons from a group that's been working with women in prisons. We started the Let's Talk About with a story about allyship. We have a lot of DEI trainers in our group, and we started talking about allyship very early on in our series because of what was going on with Black Lives Matter. We then moved into some additional things about the race paradigm from some history professors that have been teaching about race. And we just concluded last week our last Let's Talk About workshop on sustainability with a woman that's been very active in the climate change movement. And then in July, we had an incredibly fun experience. Usually in July, we do socials. Our members open up their homes to 12 random members and then get to meet them and have a social experience. And we weren't going to be able to do that. But one of our members had started a conference that we now call the Unconference, and they had this incredible virtual platform that Kathy and her husband Chip had created so that we could invite people to share whatever they wanted to share with other girlfriends using 5 or 6 Zoom things that were woven together in a way that allowed us to spend 4 hours with people coming in and out and sharing ideas and favorite stories and favorite books and recipes on gluten-free cooking. And the Unconference turned out to be a lovely affair that ended with a wonderful co-creating of a mural about the words that reflected our summer of 2020, which you'll see in a few minutes. We also launched our blog and re-energized our dynamic duos. And in August, we did a grantee partner showcase, a little bit like what Martha was talking about, but instead of having our grantees write reports this year, we did a couple of different things because of COVID. We invited our grantees to choose to use the money that we'd given them for projects in an unrestricted manner to do whatever they needed to do for the year. And instead of writing a report, to be willing to video on their cell phone or wherever, a 2 or 3 minute response to 3 questions that we had about what they've been doing, what's important in their field, and how have we helped them. And we showcased those videos. We had an incredible videographer put them together. We learned from Greenville's lovely grantee partner videos that they had done a couple years ago, I think. So we had short videos of our current grantees and last year's grantees. And we used that grantee partner showcase also as a chance to have breakout groups that allowed our members to talk about what does impact mean to them, and then also to ask questions of our panelists. And now we're going into our next set of activities with our Meet the Finalists, which will be in Zoom as well, but that'll be live streamed, and our grantee finalists will have to present their story to us. And because of COVID again, we've changed our grant making so that we'll be providing unrestricted funds to 10 organizations at $50,000 instead of project grants at $100,000, which is what we've been doing for our first 4 years. One of the best things about Zoom and COVID is that we've been able to create training videos for our grant review teams about, thinking about social change and levels of social change, thinking about implicit bias in grant making, and just doing some grant review basics. So we'll be able to have those, they'll be evergreen. A couple of the things that we did to keep people connected. One of our members wanted to have a postcard project where she sent postcards out to members who were interested in creating something visual that they would send back to us. And we had a little slideshow of those incredibly beautiful, thoughtful postcards about our summer at our Grantee Partner Showcase. And we've been really happy to have 3 of our members go to the Racial Equity Community of Practice sessions that Philanos is co-sponsoring. So our program participation turned out to be pretty active. We've had 270 women in our summer programs. 53% of our membership said they were intended something this summer. And 73% of our membership, the people that say we want to participate, there are many that don't want to participate at all. They want to just be active with their votes. So we were pleased to see that of the people that wanted to be active, 73% have been active this summer. And our new members got very involved, which was terrific for us. So what were our challenges? Well, I think we're having the same challenges that all of you are having. When to schedule things. We've got mothers who are taking care of their kids during the day. We've got people that have so many different obligations. So we've been trying to do a little bit of a mixture of mornings and evenings and Sunday afternoons. How to spread the word, how to recruit facilitators, because every breakout group needs a good facilitator. And our challenge of engaging new members we feel pretty good about, but we still don't know our new members very well. So we haven't been able to really pull in as many of them in terms of their expertise. And we're still working on building that leadership pipeline for us. So we've learned a lot of lessons. We know that the most important thing for us is to continue to ask for help and to continue to stay grounded in the work that we're doing together for our community, learning about our community, understanding what's going on in our community. And this is from our unconference. Not only do we talk about gluten-free baking and the spirituality of cemeteries and how to create new habits and many other things, power tools, how to use power tools. People could do whatever they wanted to share, and it was lovely. But the words that came out strongly about the summer of 2020, as you can see, if you've ever done a word cloud, if you say the word over and over again, it gets bigger and bigger. Was love and hope and family and Zoom. So in many ways, we've had a lot of learning that we've been able to feel good about in terms of our work together. And a lot of this is going to play out in terms of helping us in the future. We have new grant making software. We have lots more Zoom expertise. We've got new communication tools to connect us, but we still have a lot of challenges ahead. So thank you for listening to some of the tactical things that we ended up doing this summer. It kept us very busy in a way that was good.
We have a lot of good questions coming in, so please keep coming. Keep sending them if you have others. Let's start with the idea that you had, Martha, about the Zoom consultant. This seems to be obviously a topic of great interest here. How did you find yours? I assume this is somebody local. Some ideas on where you locate these people other than just grabbing anyone who's under the age of 30, which is where I would start.
Yes, yes, thank you. Well, for this, we need a little context. As we said earlier, we have 4 full circle meetings a year. And one of the places that we held full circles was in one of the local synagogues. Has a wonderful space and catering abilities and of course technical help. So then when we knew that we wanted to go on to Zoom, it turns out that our contact at the synagogue said, well, we have a Zoom consultant. And he turned out to be this incredibly nice young man. And we just couldn't have done what we did without him. So we didn't really have to go looking, which I think was obviously a real benefit for us.
Yeah, great. Deborah, do you have any experience on that? How have you found technical help?
Well, our technical help came from one of our members' husbands who ended up doing some really classy stuff. We haven't been very formal about it. And also we've been taking advantage of the under 30 crowd.
Yeah, I would say we've found some help. I know with other organizations that I'm involved with, look at your Rotary clubs. If you've got a large Rotary club, these people always are doing big meetings, and like everyone else has had to adjust. So we've found some people there. Your video production companies that you may have locally. So put the question out to your members. You know, do they have children, you know, spouses, anybody that could help. What about, have you worked with a local production company? Deborah, I think, you know, can you give us an idea, if you're working with a professional company, do you have an idea of costs, how much that sort of thing would cost?
So just a few things about that. We've had two different production companies. One worked with us for our grantee partner showcase, and another is working with our Meet the Finalists. We're also very committed to doing everything possible to get contractors of color, particularly women of color. And we've been very lucky to have a very good a website about Black-owned businesses, Black-run businesses that allow us to do more outreach into that community than we might have done in the past. And all that's online, which is great. Our production for those 8 videos that we did during the Grantee Partner Showcase, we had to pay for music and some other kind of production stuff, was probably between $3,500 and $5,500. Which I think is incredibly reasonable. Given that you're not spending your money on event facility venues, we were able to move our money into video production.
That's a great point, that a lot of us have budgets for events, in-person things that were not used. Exactly. Martha, do you have an idea? Have you all used production companies too? And
we have not in this cycle. A while back we made a short video, and I remember that the cost was somewhere around $6,000, but that was 2 years ago. So it's not in this environment.
Okay, I just got a notice here that, let me find this, it went away again. I'm on chat here from Paula. She says, if you're looking for Black-owned businesses, one site is blackwallstreet.com, which I'm sure some of you probably heard of. So if you're looking to incorporate the diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and we'll maybe, if we have time,
official blackwallstreet.com.
Okay, official. Thank you. Thank you, Paula. Okay, you have that. Another question.
By the way, there are other videographers, like there's a big group of Black videographers working with one of our grantee partners, Open Signal. So that was a great source of referrals for us as well. Great. You might have that in your public TV stations.
Okay, thank you. The software that you use for your unconference, is that, where can you get that? Is that public?
You can't. No, we had, again, Kathy's husband created it, but basically you could figure out how to do it. We used 4 different Zoom rooms, and we created one homepage that was in one master Zoom room. So you could look at this homepage and you could click on the other places to go to we would have 4 or 5 sessions at a time that allowed people to go to different sessions going into different Zoom rooms. So we had 4 nice young men that were hosting all those Zoom rooms for us, sitting somewhere in a back room somewhere.
Well, sounded wonderful. It sounded like that was so much fun, Deborah.
Yeah, that's great.
That's wonderful. We're going to have to look into that too. Yeah. Training videos for your grant review teams. Did you make those? Did you generate those yourselves also?
Yeah, we had a consultant that's working with us on social change. She helped create the Women Moving Millions work, and she has an approach to social change that we've been using a lot. Someone asked about whether or not I could share those videos. I'm going to have to ask our grant review team members about that. They're proud of the reviewer, the programs, but we hadn't talked about making them available beyond our members. So we'll see.
Okay. Martha, let me ask you, we've had some questions about evaluation of your grants. Let's say, start with, what are the types of questions that you ask your grantees, your grant partners, to answer for you? You know, what what are the main things that you want to find out about impact of the grants that you've made?
Well, we have a quite detailed application, and we have many, we have as our mission to help women and children in the Baltimore area achieve self-sufficiency. So that's a quick way of saying we support many, many different kind of grants. We have healthcare, job training, mentorship, after school programs, just on, the list goes on and on. So what we do in our application is we ask for a general mission of their organization. And then we have a application that allows them to apply for either a specific program, should they be a woman's shelter that wants to start, for example, I don't know, cooking training. I'm just making something up on this. Mm-hmm. Or we also can ask them if they want general operating funds. So we ask for that kind of detail. And then, Sue, I want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Am I answering the right question?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes. How you evaluate, that's on your application. So I'm assuming when you do your grant evaluation, you would follow up, okay, did you do X, Y, and Z?
Yes, exactly. And we ask them for specifically what they're going to do, how many women or children it's going to affect, how they recruit their the people who they will be serving. We ask that they give us all those details, and of course, many other things, financial and budget, etc. So then when we go to evaluate, that is the province of our post-grants committee.
Yeah.
And it has teams and gets in touch with the grantees and goes over those questions. Have they met all the goals that they set? But I have to say that one of the things that is really important for us now is how are these evaluations going to change in the time of COVID? Yeah. Because we're on a different cycle than Deborah's Giving Circle. Ours is July 1st to June 30th. And we're going to be evaluating programs and delivery methods that we didn't even know existed at this time last year. And not only that, if we adjust to the new programs, delivery methods, etc., we don't know when we might be going back to the old or some semblance of it. So it's very, very much up in the air now. We know what we did before, and we're going to kind of feel our way through what we're going to do in the future.
Yeah. Deborah, do you have some input on that too?
Yeah, we're changing everything as well for two big reasons. One is we've really embraced trust-based philanthropy. So we're committed to believing that the people that are using our funds are smart and are doing it thoughtfully and creatively. Mm-hmm. And now that we're giving unrestricted grants, we're really not talking about the project as much as the organization. We also, during COVID, wanted to keep the work down. So the way that we're asking for feedback is these short Grantee Partner Showcase videos. What did you do? How do you feel? What's next? And how did we help you? And that's really changed the way I work. I used to teach program evaluation at the University of Texas, LBJ School of Public Affairs, and it was very focused on logic models, being clear at the beginning about what you were going to do and being able to show how you got there. Right now, we're being much more open to tell us what happened, tell us what you learned, and how can we help, and what's happening in the field so that we're all learning together. We did a really good conversation about what our members want to see in terms of impact, and that's going to help us guide what we'll do next. We're not sure what our grant making is going to look like next year. This year, we said we're supporting groups that are talking about how they're dealing with COVID, which might be about their vulnerable populations or their staff. And we've gotten a very different set of requests, and we're going to have to rethink everything this coming year.
That's absolutely. And I was glad to see you're adopting a model that my home group, Greenville Women Giving, is doing as well. And that is in adjusting to this COVID world, we're going to be stressing the applications that talk about what are you doing to keep your organization together, number one, not so much project grants, but how are you addressing your core mission? This may be operating, how are you keeping the lights on? We all know these organizations, so many of them are in trouble, and the people they are serving are in worse trouble.
Right.
So this dictates a whole other model. Let me start asking you, if you want to talk more about grant making, I'd love to hear that too. Or I think, Martha, you may have had another comment.
Well, I did have another comment,
Yeah.
because I agree with Deborah. We're about to change everything, and we're changing going into an unknown. For example, as I said earlier, we usually have made two kinds of grants, either program grants or operating grants. Well, are we going to change that? And if we do, will it be enough change that would change our essential mission? I mean, that's just a huge question. And all this, of course, the pandemic is framed for us in the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle in the frame of we're just starting our DEI initiative. And that, of course, is going to have most likely a huge, huge impact on our grants. So I think that we have a definite maybe. We don't know, we don't know where we're going, but we're all struggling with the same issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We also got a question. Let me ask both of you. Are you asking your applicants for DEI statements? And again, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Are you incorporating that into your applications in some way?
So, we've been working on implicit bias training for our members and our staff for the last 3 years, and issues of racial equity are really important to us. Our commitment is the value of making sure that the organizations that we fund really reflect the stakeholders that they're working for and with. So the question that we have on our application, and this year, instead of doing an LOI and an RFP, we did a very short one-stop shop application because it was the organizational stuff. Our question is, how do you incorporate your constituencies, your stakeholders, I can't remember what we said, into the way you work, into the work you do, and into the leadership of the organization. And that, for us, gives us the opportunity to think a little bit more about the racial equity work that each organization is doing. Also, this year, we allowed our grant review teams to look at their websites and other things that the organization had been promoting about their work. And people were looking for, is your board reflective of your community? Is your staff reflective of your community, particularly about issues of diversity and equity and race and age? And, if it's a group working with people with disabilities, are there people with disabilities actively shaping the organization?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, let's move to turning the lens on ourselves, our own organizations. Look at us. We're not a picture of diversity, right here. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you are changing your member recruitment methods during this time, both in general and specifically to bring in more diversity into your own group membership? Either one, Martha?
Well, I think that is a really interesting question. We're going to have some contrast here. Deborah's group has been working on this for 3 years. Yeah. We are just at the very beginning. And one of the things that was getting discussed in the summer study group that's getting us moving is, do you really just say, well, I want to go and recruit people who are Black or Latino? That's not the way you're going to change your membership. At least that's what we found here in Baltimore. What we think is that when we have a whole change of our lens, a whole change of how we grant, and the questions we ask on our applications, and the implicit bias training, that as an organization, we will change, and that will attract a different membership. That's not to say that we would not like to recruit women of color. Of course we would. But the point is that we're talking about not just going around and saying, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, black faces. That's not going to do it. And we don't want that to do it. So we're looking at a whole new change of how we approach things and hoping that that will help us diversify our membership. Now, for your other part of your question, just very quickly, we've all, of course, had to go to Zoom, and we have a prospective member Zoom coming up just this week, and we'll see how it goes. The membership committee worked very hard to get a list of prospects, and we're going to Zoom with them in 2 days, and we hope it works.
Yeah, let me get just a quick question for both of you then. Are you expecting that your membership will grow this year, shrink, or stay about the same? Anybody want to look in a crystal ball? Deborah, how about you?
It blew our minds. The day that COVID shut us down in Portland, we had 290 members, and we were planning to get 525 members. So we brought our goal down to whatever it's going to be, it will be whatever it is. And our approach to membership recruitment is mostly people to people, which continues to create the segregation in our town that our town is known for. Although probably 12 to 13% of our members self-identify as people of color at this point, who, because of connections to people. But we did one virtual World Cafe, our kind of gathering together, and a lot of phone calls. And all of a sudden in May, we popped up into 505 members. And I think it's because people didn't know what else to do to make a difference.
That's wonderful, Deborah.
That's amazing. Tell me again, where did they come from, and how did they know about you?
They knew, mostly it's people to people, girlfriend to girlfriend. But I think people were looking for something to hang on to in March, April, May that would make them feel they could make a difference in the community. We were dealing with a lot of issues of racial justice already, and concerns about who's getting left behind with COVID. So I think we were an attractive and opportunity for people, but we don't know about this year. And this year we're also going to be probably rethinking our membership. $1,100 has been what we've said all along. Some of our younger members, some of our women of color are saying maybe we should consider some other options for some other ways of making the membership community a rich and diverse group, which might be changing our membership due structure, contribution structure, or it might be doing more partnering with other groups that are reflective of other viewpoints, or it may be bringing people in to our grant review teams that are from other backgrounds. So everything's in the air. I mean, that's the interesting thing about this year. All these Zoom meetings about what are we going to do next?
Right.
Yeah, well, what it sounds like you've done is really empowered and motivated your own members to go out and bring in others. Martha, is this something that you feel like your group would do, or are you starting to do that?
Oh no, we always do that. When the membership committee is getting its list of prospects to invite, it's always, through friends and woman to woman. But I do want to say something about something that Deborah just said. We also expected our membership, to drop. Now our membership year starts on July 1st, so we're just starting it, but we're already ahead of where we were this time last year. So that, Deborah, it kind of bolsters your point. People are wondering what they can do, how they can help, and are joining.
I'm looking at some other question here. Here's one. Let's go back to your implicit bias training. How have you accomplished that? Do you do self-study? Do you have facilitated sessions? Are there videos? Are there courses that you could recommend? How are you doing that?
Yeah, we contracted with the Diamond Law organization. They had done some videos in Portland that reflect microaggressions that happen every day. And they have different modules that they do to let people look at these videos and identify what are some microaggressions that are happening, and talk about how to acknowledge them, see them, call on people call people out if that's going on. And their modules are about race and age and disability and gender and LGBTQ issues. And each year we did 2 modules, and we did 3 years of that. And it was really very instructive for the people that attended. We probably had between 90 and 100 people attending. We'll probably do it differently in the future. I think there's some other issues that have emerged that really relate to the race issues in our systemic race issues in our communities these days in the future. But we did contract with a group, and they did it over 3 years. And their videos, which are wonderful, are very Portland based because they show Portland people doing things that you say, oh my gosh, why would someone do that? I think there are other places, there are an incredible number of DEI consultants out there right now. And I would encourage people to talk to someone who understands about adult education. If you're bringing somebody in to work with your group, make sure that they know how to work with adults and that they have some experience, and ideally have some lived experience with the issues that are at hand.
Yeah, I'd say we here, if I can bring our own experience in our community, our United Way has taken a lead along with the Community Foundation, a couple other groups, in providing training like that to other nonprofits, other boards. So saying, have you worked, either of you worked with other large, I'll take the United Way, and this will have, we're about out of time. This will be our last question. Have you worked directly with some other funding organizations in your communities to do some of the same types of work that you're doing?
I will just say that we have started that last year, and then things kind of have gotten put on hold with COVID. Not that we're not going to go ahead and do it in the time of COVID, but that this summer we were just trying to get ourselves organized, and so it's on our, it's been done, and more is on our plan, but right for this, this moment, it's on hold.
Yeah. Deborah?
We did a little work with the Women's Foundation of Oregon, and they're incredibly active in terms of equity issues for women, gender, and LGBTQ issues. But really, I think that there's not an opportunity for us, that we want to create an opportunity to do more partnership with other philanthropic organizations in our community, and that's in our future.
Yeah.
Right. One thing that we were able to do, we took some of the monies that we did not spend on events and food and venues and all of that last year, and donated it to what we call the local COVID Relief Fund, which is administered by the United Way. And they are very appreciative. We found, again, we're in a much smaller community than both of you, and things don't happen here. For those of us that are in small communities, we find if we want good things to happen, collaboration is key. We have to do that. I know that's different in a big city, but I think we are just about out of time. You all have been fantastic. Lots of great ideas. We are all learning more than we ever thought we would have to learn, I guess, at this time of our lives. But our work as collective giving organizations it's never been more important than in these very, very fractious times. So I want to remind people, you see a little preview here of next month's webinar. I think you used this phrase, Deborah. Thank you very much for that little cue here. Trust-based philanthropy. What is that? How does that work? That will be our webinar next month. We have, again, the emails for both of you, Deborah and Martha. Thank you very much. There are more questions than we could really get to, and I want to thank everybody who has been on the webinar with us for these great questions. We will continue learning, growing, and stay healthy together. So I think with that, we will say thank you very much. We'll see everybody next month.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Thank you so much.
Really, thank you for inviting us.
This was great for me. I learned a lot.
Yeah, me